Making a little extra money and having that extra money in your bank account is great, but what's the best order in investing your money this year? This video is going to cover the optimal steps for you. I'm also not just going to give you hypotheticals and categories, I'm going to actually give you actual examples that you can do today. So first things first, number one has gotta be to make an emergency fund. And I know that this one's not very fun and that's not what you were hoping to hear with your money, but it makes the most sense. Now let's just start with your goal of building up to $1,000. That's sizable enough that it'll keep you safe, but also not too crazy that you're not missing out on an opportunity to use that money to grow into something actually fun. Think of it like gas for your car. The car itself is the cool thing. If you have a Ferrari or something, that's awesome. But without any gas, that thing isn't going anywhere. And the gas is annoying to pay for, but it makes it so that you can actually use the car. But basically you have an emergency fund so that you can stay out of debt. And we're going to talk about debt in a second, but you just want to make sure that you get yourself out and then you stay out. The thing that's going to get you poor and keep you poor is by having to pay interest payments because you had to put money on a credit card because you didn't have money to keep you safe in an emergency fund. So let's build this one up. It's got to be number one. Make it happen. Number two on your priority list has to be that 401k match. If I told you that you could invest in this one stock in the stock market today and get a 100% return on your money, you would do it. Well, that's exactly what the 401k match is. Your employer says put $200 in and I'll give you $200 in that fund as well. Usually your employer is willing to pay up to 3 or 5% or something of your paycheck and match exactly what you put in. At this stage, I recommend that you only go up to the match and nothing more, because 401k accounts tend to have a higher expense ratio than those of like an IRA. So for now, take the free money, do the match, and let's move on to number three. Now, number three is not going to be the funnest one in the world either, but it's going to be to pay off your high interest debt. Now notice that I said high interest debt and not just all debt at this point. High interest debt to me is above 5% and really above 8%. One of the biggest culprits of that high interest debt is going to be your credit card. And instead of just going at it and paying it down, there's actually a secret that I want you to take advantage of. Because if you were to just go at it right now, say you have $20,000 in credit card debt, and you pay off about $500 or $1,000 every single month, you're paying off a portion of the principal, but also interest every single month. And that interest is the thing that's really hurting you. So what we want to do is take that interest away totally and make it so that you're just paying down principal. That's going to cut your credit card payment time down in half. The easiest way to attack this is to take all your credit card debt and move it to a 0% interest rate card. A card like this one will allow you to transfer the balance of your credit cards for a small fee. Then you give yourself some breathing room to pay off this debt. Usually you'll get 12 to 24 months of zero interest, and this is where you need to double down and crush this. Now, once you move this over and now you have 0% interest, you're going to start getting tempted to say, well, I don't have to pay it off as aggressively because there's no interest coming in. Wrong. Do not fall into this. That's why we're in this dilemma in the first place, you silly goose. And now this and other cool tips and tricks to save money, make more money, and invest to hit that financial freedom quicker is all going down in the private group Patreon that you can be a part of through this link below. Exclusive videos, live Zoom Q&A every 2 weeks with everyone, and a solid group chat are exactly where the magic is made. So join us today. Now, paying off that high interest debt could be number two or even number one, but I like it here because, like I said before, if you don't have that emergency fund and you blow out your tire and you have to spend $400 on a tire, then you're just gonna have to add that to the credit card, which has high interest, and that's just gonna keep you in that high interest debt for way too long. So get the emergency fund going, and then we're gonna be able to really crush this debt. Now remember, this is just high interest debt. If you have something something like student loan debt or even a car loan debt that's 3% or something lower, just make the payment and keep living. There's no use in messing with your mental health in order to stress yourself out to try to pay off as much as possible, when that interest isn't high enough to actually cripple you in any way. There's much smarter places where we can be putting that money. After getting all of those solidified, the next place is probably my favorite, and that's going to be your Roth IRA. And I'm not going to go super into depth on what this is because there is a lot of information out there on this now, but I will give you the quick and most important things that you need to know, and how you can take the most advantage of this right now. The Roth option is so cool because while you're putting post-tax dollars in right now, later on when you pull money out in retirement age, every single dollar that you pull out is tax-free and it isn't even looked at as income. So for those of you that have a regular job, a W-2 income, you're already being taxed on that paycheck. So once you take that money and you put it into the Roth IRA, you're not being taxed again because you've already been taxed. And now you just let it grow, and later on you pull all that money out and it's totally tax-free. For those of you that own a business or a 1099, you haven't been taxed yet on that money. And so by putting it into the Roth IRA, it will be looked at as your taxable income, and so you're going to be taxed on that up front. But as you'll see in a second, that tax is going to be nothing compared to what it could be later on. If you max out your Roth IRA for 5 years from age 20 to 25, and so you have $30,000 in this account, and you're investing in something like the S&P 500 that appreciates at 10% on average per year, if you never added another dollar, when you turn 65, you'd have over $1.3 million for you to retire on. Remember, you put in a total of $30,000 and it just grew to over $1,300,000. And you get to pull out every single one of those dollars totally tax-free. Now, our economy is hurting right now from high inflation and from crazy debt we will need to pay off from the pandemic and other issues, and the way the government will pay that off is higher taxes from us. So there's no doubt in my mind that in 20 years, taxes will be much higher than they are now. And the Roth is the only retirement account that has this type of benefit. So I'd 100% jump on this if you can. There is a limit to max it out, and that is $6,000 for people under 50 in 2022, and $6,500 in 2023. It's $7,000 for people 50 or older in 2022, and $7,500 in 2023. Now, the reason why I said you should get on this if you can is because if you make too much money, there is a limit to who can contribute based on how much money you make. The Roth IRA income limits for 2022 are less than $144,000 for single tax filers and less than $214,000 for those married and filing jointly. To contribute to a Roth IRA, single tax filers must have a modified adjusted gross income of less than $144,000 in 2022 or less than $153,000 in 2023. If married and filing jointly, your joint MAGI must be under $214,000 in 2022 or $228,000 in 2023. Another huge reason as to why I put the Roth IRA here in this order is because, like I said before, that money has already been taxed, and so by putting it into this retirement account, if you ever need to pull out your principal or pull out some of that money that you put in, you can do so without any fee. In other retirement accounts like the 401k or a traditional IRA, you cannot touch any of that money until 59 and a half, or else you're going to have a sizable fee associated with it. With the Roth IRA, any growth that's happened can't be touched or pulled out till after 59 and a half, but your principal, your amount that you've put in, you can take out if there's an emergency or you need the money. So basically I see this as just like having a savings account, except there's the possibility of it growing to crazy numbers. And then for those of you that make too much money, first of all, that's a good problem to have. Second of all, there's a thing called a backdoor IRA, which I'm not going to go into right now. But basically, one way to get around the Roth IRA income limit is to do a backdoor Roth IRA, which involves putting money in a traditional IRA and then converting the account to a Roth IRA. The next place that I would be putting my money on this list is an HSA. And this is basically just an investment account, but for specifically health expenses. So basically you put money into this account, it can grow just like the stock market. And then when you pull that money out, you have to use it for health expenses. But there's so many benefits with this. This one has what they call the triple tax benefit. Your contributions are tax deductible, your money grows tax deferred, and you can withdraw money tax free as long as it's used to pay for qualified health expenses. One of the biggest expenses that happens in retirement age are expenses that have to do with health. So this is just a good one no matter what age you are to put that money away so that you know you have some dedicated money specifically for that, but also all those tax benefits are huge. All right, this next place that I'm going to suggest is where it starts to get a little spicy. This one's gonna be a hot take, and it's gonna be similar to why I choose not to use a textbook very often when I'm teaching my courses at my universities. And the reason for that is the students need to learn in real time what's happening right now, not what happened with IBM in 1980. But I digress. So some would say at this point that it's a great idea for you to max out your 401k, and I can see merit to that, but that's not what I choose. I think it's a smarter idea for you overall to be thinking about something a little more short-term or mid-term as far as an investing place at this point. At this point, I choose to start adding to a brokerage account, because if the only places you're putting money at this point is in retirement accounts, you can't touch any of that money, you can't use it for anything until after 59 and a half. I believe that the bulk of your investing, especially at first, should be in retirement accounts, and especially if you're younger, it should be in retirement accounts because compound interest is your best friend, but there's just other factors to consider at this point. I want you to be able to have the option to have some money to then put into another investment, like maybe a rental property or investing in dividends, to where you can actually have those dividends start paying bills now so that you can free up your life a little bit and help out that mental health. And as a side note, my favorite dividend ETF for passive income is SCHD, and this video goes super deep on why I love it. So watch that when you're done here, and the link to that is down below as well. So anyway, opening a brokerage account on a trusted site, something like Charles Schwab or Fidelity, not FTX, is your best bet, and I personally use Charles Schwab. It's not as cool or sleek as something like Robinhood or Webull, but I just trust a little more. It's been around for a little bit longer. Within this brokerage account, you can choose to invest in ETFs or individual company stocks or even REITs. Since you guys are subscribed to this channel, you know that I'm all about ETFs. And by the end of this video, I'm gonna give you a couple that I'm super in love with, but as far as individual company stocks, you probably already know, but I absolutely love Microsoft, Apple, Berkshire Hathaway, and Disney. At this point, I'm curious though, what's your favorite individual company stock? Go ahead and throw a couple down below in the comment section so that those that are newer to this channel might be able to read through and see what other people are investing in. The community on this channel so far has been amazing, and I can't thank you guys enough on that. Now let's move on to that next section. Now at this point, I would say it's a good idea for you to start maxing out that 401k and just supercharge your investing for retirement. All of my 401k income is in the S&P 500, but I also really like target date funds and then also the total stock market. If you're super far away from retirement age, I don't personally like a bunch of bonds or exposure to bonds because long term, the stock market has just done so much better and brought so much more returns. But if you're getting closer to retirement age or even in retirement age, that's a smart time to be buying up bonds or making it so that you have more of a stable amount so that it can't drop suddenly on you. And the reason why I say max out your 401k is because at this point, you've already maxed out the Roth IRA, and that max out limit is much lower. To max out your 401k, it's over $20,000. And if you're able to put that much away for retirement eventually, that's just going to be such a big thing for you. Next on the list would be to now be able to pay down the lower interest consumer debt. At this point, I suggest everything except for the mortgage. Student loans, personal loans, car loans, etc. Life is much easier and less stressful when you have less expenses. Also, rainy days happen. People lose jobs or economies struggle during crazy health outbreaks. Knowing that you don't need multiple thousands of dollars just to survive the month is very nice. Also, once you have all these expenses paid off, you'll now have a bunch of extra money that you can put into even funner things. And now again, as far as mental health is concerned, if you're somebody that just can't sleep with any debt, then at this point it's smart for you to pay off anything, including the mortgage. Just like in investing, you can't just take anybody's advice and say that that's going to work specifically for you, because you're unique and you are different. And so you have to take into consideration your personality, your risk profile, what matters most to you. Now, this next section is the one that gets me very excited, because now we get to talk about real investment. Because you've paid off most, if not all, of your debts, you have an emergency fund, you have retirement savings going crazy, you are very safe at this point. So now it's time to really throw some gas on that fire. And in this section, I definitely recommend that it's time to start putting money into investments that are making you cash flow forever. Now, this is not for everyone, and I do definitely understand that, but for those of you that want time freedom or financial independence, or whatever you want to call it, this is the way that you get that. Because even if you were to get rid of all expenses somehow, including the mortgage, you still have to pay property taxes on that house forever. So you still at some point need money coming in, because it's not like your groceries or gas or any of that is just going to totally stop. So yes, playing defense by cutting out expenses is so important, but you still need some offense. You still need some money coming in. For this, the cash flow categories that I like the best are real estate and dividend income. Since you'll already have some good stocks picked out and some good ETFs picked out in that brokerage account from before, saving up here for a rental property is a really good idea. And if you don't want to do real estate because it's a little too risky, or that's just a really big price point, you can still do this by purchasing another vehicle and rent it out on apps like Turo, or you could start a side hustle. And so investing in a business of some sort that brings monthly income. Obviously, this is a huge one to me as an actual professor of entrepreneurship and finance. And there's many, many ways to skin a cat. Not really sure why we're skinning cats. I actually don't really like that phrase. Pretty sure I've never said that phrase. Pretty sure I'm never gonna say that phrase again. But there's so many ways that you can make money out there. And just like the theme of this whole video, pick something that works good for you and your personality and run for it. Now, the last one here would be to pay off that mortgage. And after I get done with this one, I'm going to share with you the 3 ETF categories that I totally recommend that you throw into your Roth IRA, brokerage account, 401k, any of that investing. But anyway, about the mortgage. Your mortgage will most likely be the biggest debt that you ever have and the biggest payment you probably ever have per month. So getting that thing paid off will be huge. Now, I do put this last because if you were to pay an extra $1,000 each month for 10 years in order to pay off a $400,000 house faster, you'd then have a house totally paid off. But if you would have put that $1,000 per month into the S&P 500, in 10 years, you'd have over $190,000 in an investment account. So in that scenario, you'd probably still have 5 to 10 more years to pay off the mortgage. And so if you didn't contribute $1 more to that investment account and just let it sit so you could pay off the mortgage, in 10 years from then, you'd have $496,050 and a paid off house. Yeah, I'll take that choice, please. Watch this video now to learn which 3 ETF categories I like to make investments today like you just saw in that example.